Welcome, everybody, to the professional interview series. We have a special guest here today, Mrs. Elizabeth Foster. Elizabeth, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I know it snowed there. Everybody being safe there?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. We got 3 or 4 inches, so it was a fun adventure scraping the cars this morning.
Did everybody operate on a delay there today?
No, not in not in the city.
Okay.
I do think EKU did operate on a delay, but we
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you do, what your title is, where you work.
Yeah. So I'm Elizabeth Foster. I work for Richmond Parks and Recreation, and I am the program coordinator.
So, what does that mean?
So I have kind of taken on a few different roles as I've kind of went through the city. I started in the Parks Department in 2015 as a summer camp counselor, and then I worked as an intern for my master's program with them, and then I was hired to be a museum and then like an assistant program coordinator. And then now I'm a program coordinator. But I oversee all of our events, all of our special events that we do, such as Easter Extravaganza, Fishing Derby, Kids Fest, Halloween Hoedown, Christmas Parade. Those events can kind of vary widely about what I do with them, but typically I kind of coordinate volunteers, I oversee the budget, I work with sponsorship agreements, I handle any kind of coordinating of vendors, food vendors, or craft vendors. And then I also oversee our summer day camp, where I help with like hiring for that and the paperwork side of it. And then I oversee our Paradise Cove concession stand and front desk. And then I also oversee our teen center as well.
Okay. So, you said you started as a camp counselor. So, walk us through the different jobs and the different things you've done professionally in your career, in and out of recreation.
Yeah. So I actually started, my first job was with EKU Conferencing and Events as a student worker. I loved doing that, and I worked there all through my undergrad. I've also worked at two fast food places, Orange Leaf and Firehouse Subs. I worked at Firehouse Subs for years. So sorry, my computer tells me what time it is. It scares everybody. um, and then I worked as a summer camp counselor. I actually did that because of somebody I worked with at EKU mentioned that the Parks Department needed counselors, and I loved it. I had the best time with it.
So, to kind of go along with that question, uh, where are you from? Where did you go to school, as far as high school and all that? And then, where'd you go for your higher education at the university?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Bath County, Kentucky. It's a very small little area. I graduated with 133 people. And then I went to EKU. I got my degree in history. And then I also have two minors in political science and paralegal studies. At one point, I thought I wanted to go to law school. I changed and went and got my master's degree in public administration. I actually thought I would end up working in some kind of like HR or budgeting of some sort, maybe a nonprofit. And when I went and did my summer with the camp counseling, I decided events is really what I'm great at. So
Yeah.
I stayed.
So, tell us what are some of your favorite aspects of your job now, and what are some of the things that you look forward to doing, and if there is anything that maybe you wish you could improve on, or something that's kind of stinky, you can talk about that too. But I want to know what you love about your job first and foremost.
I genuinely really like planning events. I think it's a lot of fun. Most of the events that I do are special events, so they happen around holidays. You typically start seeing some of the same families each year, and it's really cool to see them like making memories. Um, I talk about the Halloween hoedown to anybody in the community there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I took my kids to that one time," and that's really cool to know that like it was an important part of their fall season or whatever.
Sure.
And I also really like the aspect of my job changing. I don't really I don't really think I would be very good at just a basic office job. So it's really nice that ours is very seasonal. Sometimes it's the same thing we're doing um, for each event, but it changes a little bit each time. Who we talk to or what we need to purchase, when we need to start those things. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Um, and also really love like being able to like do various things. I've learned a lot of skills that I never thought I would need to know. A lot of weird things about planning that I just didn't need to know, didn't know that I would need. But I think my favorite event that we do is the Christmas parade one. It's I think the most fun. It's the hardest one I do, but it's the most like direct community involvement that I do, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, we talked about with Richmond Parks and Recreation. So Richmond is a bedroom community to Lexington, Kentucky. It's about 25 minutes south of Lexington. They're in central Kentucky. How big would you say Richmond is as far as population wise?
Oh, I hate to say that I don't know exactly what it is.
I was kind of
Um,
thinking like 30 to 40,000, but I didn't.
I
I don't
think
know.
that's about right. I
Okay.
have a hard time because EKU
Yeah.
like skews those numbers. Some I can tell you most of my events. A movie that we do in the park normally is about 100 people, but for the Christmas parade, I typically have like 2,000 people just in the parade, not counting people that are in the community watching.
Yeah.
So it can kind of vary widely.
Sure. Yeah. What so along with that, apart from the job, what are some of the things you like about being a Parks and Rec professional?
I would say I'm probably the least outdoorsy parks person you'll ever meet. I am always that person that's hiding under the tree or has tons of sunscreen on because I was not made to be outside. But I really love like getting to go and do all these things. Um, I personally am much more of a book kind of person. I read lots of books and do things like that. But I do think that the parks, seeing some of the various new activities that people have been doing, like we're trying to work on exercise equipment right now, like getting outdoor exercise equipment. And I
Oh,
think that's super great and super fun. And it's a new, exciting thing. I love looking at all the playground pieces that we have had throughout the years and debating back and forth which one seems to be the most fun to play on for kids.
yeah.
Um, as well as at the pool, it's really fun. Like we've gotten a couple of new pieces over the years, and getting to switch those out and do new things with those is a lot of fun.
So you mentioned you like reading books. What are some of the other things Elizabeth likes to do in her free time when not working?
I'm a big board game person. I have a lot of very varied board games. I have probably 60 board games that,
Okay.
yeah.
I did not expect
Mhm.
that number.
Yeah. I've been told that we have to stop buying board games until we get a new house because it's kind of a problem. But people borrow them from us all the time. We loan them out. I
Yeah.
have a lot of recommendations. I joke that if I ever had my dream job, it would be board game testing because I always have questions on board games.
It's funny because that was going to be one of my questions here in a little bit is what was your dream job?
It is.
Um,
Yeah, board game testing would be my dream job.
so what are some of the board games that you think are hidden gems that people should know about?
This is a very weird one, but I've told everybody about it, especially during quarantine. It's called Sagrada. It is a dice game,
Hmm.
but it's probably the best two-player game. It's technically be 2 to 4 players, but it's probably the best two-player game that I've played that I think is like actually really great. A lot of games that are like meant to be 4 players that can be 2 players, I think are just really quick and not very fun. But that one I think is a great one.
Yeah. Um, what about what's another one you like besides that one?
Currently we are playing one called King's Dilemma.
Okay.
It is a legacy game, so you can only play it. It's not a replayable game, but it is you are a council for a kingdom, and each game you play changes the kingdom. So a decision that you make the very first time you play it can affect you 8 times down. It's a bit of a pricey game, but it's really fun. It's great. We've been playing with some same people for over a year. It feels like because you can only play a few rounds at a time. But I really like that one as well.
So I think it's kind of it's always interesting to ask people both what they do for fun when they're in the Parks and Rec profession, and then their favorite or their dream job kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
I do
you-
have another one. I
yeah,
would love to plan parades for Disney. I think that would be a really fun thing. Like I said, I think the Christmas parade is like one of the most fun things that we do. So I think it
yeah,
would be really cool being a part of like a big parade, such as something that happens every single day.
yeah. And I've never been to Disney and seen that daily parade or whatever they do.
Yeah.
So, um,
I read one time that somebody said their first exposure to America was going to Disney World, and they didn't realize that it was like an amusement park, and they thought that every city had parades every day.
yeah.
And I was like, that's funny because just Disney World does that.
And you're a big Disney buff, right? A big Disney
I
nerd
am.
or whatever you can
Mhm.
call it.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite Disney movie? I mean, that's another question I got.
I say that it is Tangled, but I probably watched Princess and the Frog the most. That's actually probably my favorite.
I was young when like the Little Mermaid and Aladdin came
Yeah.
out, and then so those will always be high on my list. Lion King was in that time frame as well, but I don't know. Like I've just got an affinity for Finding Nemo.
I completely get it.
Yeah.
When we went to Disney last year, the voice of the Little Mermaid was actually there. Jodie Benson, I believe, is who it
Mhm.
is. Yeah, it was neat.
Um, and I think Disney, something they do well is it's about the experience and creating that magical, unique, awesome experience, right?
Yeah,
And that's something event planners do as well. And to some degrees, they're trying to make this experience special in some capacity, whether it's the folks sitting there watching the Christmas parade as folks roll by on Main Street and downtown, or if it's at the Disney parade, watching the princesses drive by and waving or whatnot, is trying to provide that unique, special experience.
yeah, I've
Um,
definitely used it as a comparison before because I think Disney is one of those places where everything is designed to make you feel like magic. So I think events are kind of the same thing. It doesn't matter what happens behind the scenes as long as you can pretend that it didn't happen. It's a lot of any kind of issue that happens, as long as the general public doesn't know,
right.
nobody's going to care. And as long as you can handle it with grace, then it normally works out well.
Yep.
Can't tell you how many times I thought something wasn't going to get done in time that nobody knew about. I was panicked about, and nobody knew about.
That's right. So, whether it's specifically event planning and management or if it's municipal parks in general, a lot of folks that may be looking into one of those lines of work, what kind of advice would you give to them as far as, preparing themselves to get into that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would always say just be open to like various opportunities. I never thought that I would be like working with like the teen center or even doing stuff with Paradise Cove when I first started working in the program coordinator position because
Yeah.
typically they only did events. So it's been very helpful to learn all of that and see the various things that our department does. We're not a very large department, but I mean we have 6 people. So it's been we've all gotten a taste at everybody's job in some facet. So I think it's very good to be open to all those opportunities because you'll never know when you need to step in and help somebody, as well as you need a lot of like flexibility in it. But I would recommend anybody in school to try to take classes on government. It is shocking sometimes some of the things that like everyday people just don't know about how government works. Even like nonprofit classes are really helpful, just because it helps you understand that while you may have this great idea, there are 15 other people that need to look at it first, and not to get ahead of it or not to get discouraged either. That can sometimes be frustrating when you first get in, being like, well, why don't we just do that? And you've been like, well, it's got to go be an ordinance and it's got to be approved and we need a budget and that's got to take a couple weeks. So I definitely recommend taking government classes. That was something that was very helpful for me because I was like, of course, it's going to take 3 months for us to get this through. Um, and Mason, he came in not taking anything like that. So he was like, but we can just do it. And I'm like, no, we can't. Not yet.
Yeah, it's all and that's something that I got a heavy dose of with my private endeavor apart from academics is the city and the government aspects of it, and definitely learned a lot. You know, patience and understanding the political processes were things that I had to really. It was a tough pill to swallow at first. Is that the right way to say it? I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
Like frustrated.
it's definitely different because there are a lot of people that you kind of have to convince is a good idea. And not that anybody's like anti doing what you need to, but we are accountable to the public,
Mhm.
and the public wants to make sure that we are spending their money appropriately. So there are a lot more questions and answers I have to have um, before I can do anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and and I think that's something you just said was so perfect. Is we really are stewards of people's resources in some capacity, and you know we have to allow them to understand why we're doing stuff and how we're doing stuff and all that. So, you know, something that I think is awesome about parks, recreation, tourism, sports, all that kind of stuff is I think that I've said this in a couple other of these professional interviews is I think they're just good people and good places.
Yeah, I can't remember who exactly told me, but they said, the parks department is typically everybody will interact with the parks department at some point. They may not ever interact with, finance. They may never interact with the police department or the fire department, but almost always they will interact with the parks department, whether it is an event that we do or they're going to one of our parks or
Yeah.
a program that we put on of some sort. And as such, we need to make sure that we put our best foot forward with all of that because it is sometimes the only way that a person or a whole family interact with the city government.
And I know, from a personal and professional point of view, that Richmond Parks there have a very solid reputation. In general, everybody loves the parks and the programs and the people there. So I think that's a reflection of the great work y'all are doing there too.
I hope so. We
Uh,
try.
yeah, right. Well, Elizabeth, that's all I have. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me here.
Yeah,
It's always interesting to catch up with people, especially somebody that I've met in person. Some of these folks
I
that
know.
talking to, I know digitally, or some of them I'm just like, hey, I want to interview you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I sincerely appreciate it, and I'll let you go. But thank you, and please tell your husband that I said hello, and
Well,
coworkers. I know many of those as well. Tell them I said hi, and
yeah, Joe Bentley was asking about you yesterday.
we'll give him a hard time.
I will.
All right, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Bye bye.